Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of week 3. In this lesson, we are going to look at subqueries in MySQL. My name is Mildred. A subquery is a query that is nested within another query. Sometimes we have different layers of nesting, and we're going to look at how this nesting is done. Let's say that we want to return all of the customers where the customer ID meets a criteria in another table. I'm going to write my query like this. So we're going to be using the circular database, and then I will say select all from customer where customer ID in, and then we want to put our subquery here. So we say select all from customer where the customer ID is in, and then in a pair of parentheses I want to write another query which we are going to call the inner query. So select all from customer where customer ID is the outer query. In, we are supposed to provide a list of numbers or a list of customer IDs that we want to select from. But we don't want to provide a list of IDs. We want it to check a particular table, the payments table. So we say select customer ID. So make sure that the where clause, what we are looking for customer ID, is what we are selecting from the inner query. So select customer ID from, let's say, from the payments table, and what we want to do here is to look for all the customer ID of customers that paid a particular amount. So let's say select customer ID from payments where the amount is, let's say, greater than $9.99. So we want to say the inner query should look for all the customer IDs where the payment amount is greater than $9.99. When the inner query executes this, the outer query looks at the list of customer IDs and returns all the rows of the customer where the customer ID is found in the returned list from the inner query. When I execute this, we will see that it returns 107 rows of customers that paid amount that is greater than $9.99. You can change this amount to, let's say, $4.99 and run. We'll get more customers, $5.99, that paid greater than $4.99. What if we say that paid less than $4.99? We're going to return 599 rows of customers that paid less. But you see, with this query, we can't really see the effect of the subquery because we have many rows for one customer. And so we have one customer renting a particular movie for $2.99, rent the next movie for $5.99. So that particular customer might belong to several groups of amounts. But this is the general idea. You have an inner query that executes, and then the outer query does something with the result of the execution of the inner query. So this is just the basics of what subquery is all about. We can also use subquery on the same table. Let's say this time we want to return all the rows of the maximum amount paid using a subquery. So we can do this in another way, but we want to illustrate this using a subquery. So I will say select all from payments where the amount is equal to, and we want to use a subquery here. Select. Now we want to get the maximum of the amount. So we'll say select max amount from payment. So what we are trying to achieve here is that we want to select all of the rows from the payment table where the amount is in a list of the maximum amount paid. So if the maximum amount paid, for instance, is $10, we're going to return only rows where the amount is $10. So the max amount in this case we do not know. The query is going to look at the payments table, look at the amount, look at which amount is the maximum amount. There should be several rows that have maximum amount in Thai. So we can have up to 5 customers having the maximum amount. So if the maximum amount is 10, maybe up to 5 customers paid $10. And so it will return the rows of the 5 customers. And so when I execute this, we should have the max amount is $11.99 and we have 10 rows returned. So we can see the customer IDs of everybody that paid the max amount. We can even nest further here to return something. And so the inner query is looking at another inner query of its own. So we won't get into that complexity now. We are going to look at that as we go deeper. But this is the basics of what subquery is all about. We have something called correlated subquery, where the inner query depends on the outer query. We're also going to look at that in an example that makes sense when we start creating our own tables. This is where we end this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to look at set operators. Thank you and see you in the next lesson.